Unfrosted is so much fun. As soon as I found out that this film was being released, I thought it sounded really interesting and really fun, and I'm pleased to say that it absolutely did not disappoint. We also have an amazing cast. This was released this year in 2024. It's directed by Jerry Seinfeld. It's written by Seinfeld, Spike Feresten, Andy Robin, and Barry Marder, with an amazing cast, including Jerry Seinfeld, Melissa McCarthy, Hugh Grant, Amy Schumer, Peter Dinklage, Jack McBrayer. Really, really wonderful cast. And it's basically the story of how the Pop-Tart came to be. I don't know how accurate this is. I have absolutely no idea if this is incredibly accurate or if there are a lot of creative licenses with this. If anybody has any information on that, please feel free to let me know. So I did take everything in this with a pinch of salt, but generally I found it to be really fascinating, and I'm assuming it's based a lot on truth. But again, please feel free to provide more information if you know much about this. It starts off with a young boy going into this diner, and the person in the diner tells him the story of how the Pop-Tart was created. I like that we have a narrative within a narrative. I think it was a really nice way to set things up. It was a nice way to tell the story. We don't cut back to the little boy again and again, so if you're not a fan of stories that are told like that, where we have the present day and then the past story, honestly, I kind of forgot about the little boy throughout the film, to be honest, so that's not something that's going to be an issue if you're not a fan of that kind of narrative structure. The bulk of the story is set in the 1960s, and oh my goodness, the costumes are amazing. It definitely is a very bright, vivid, vibrant film. The costumes in general, just the clothing of the 60s, look amazing, but we also have characters dressed up as classic Kellogg's characters. We, of course, have Tony the Tiger. We have people dressed as Snap, Crackle, and Pop, and it is so much fun. It gives me a kind of fuzzy nostalgia as well. Not for the 60s, I was born in the 90s, but certainly for the breakfast cereals that I loved as a child and occasionally, sometimes as an adult. And the story is sometimes quite silly. It doesn't take itself serious. And I think that that's a really important thing to note, because if you're watching this expecting a gritty, hard-hitting documentary-style film about the development of the Pop-Tart, that's not what you're going to get. It is fun. It is sometimes quite wacky. Sometimes the performances are a little over the top, but in a way that's very enjoyable. And ultimately, it is kind of chaotic as well, but in a way that is tremendous fun and silly. And as long as you like that kind of humour and that's the kind of film you're expecting, I really think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. The pacing is really great. Admittedly, it does take a little bit of time to get to the development of the Pop-Tart when we get to see these early versions of what they were creating. It does take a little bit of time to get there, but because the steps leading up to that were really fun and fascinating, I didn't really mind that very much. We have some brilliant, brilliant performances. Visually, it is an absolute treat. And I have to say, I had high hopes for it because it sounded amazing. And I truly loved it. It hasn't been as well received as I received it. It has 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb across a pretty incredible 24,000 reviews and ratings, which for a film released within the last 5 months is a pretty impressive pool of reviews and ratings. So that kind of suggests that a lot of people were interested in it. Maybe it wasn't as well received by some people compared with others, but nevertheless, I think it is a fun, slightly chaotic, but very well written and well filmed story about the origin of the Pop-Tart with some really brilliant performances. If you're in the mood for a film that's fascinating and fun and silly and brilliantly crafted, then I think Unfrosted is definitely worth watching. As I said, I had high hopes for Unfrosted and I was not disappointed.